On August 2, 1978, Site 12A was documented as vacant. The field notebook records a steel tent stake removed from the northeast pad, 10 inches in length. Moderate corrosion, logged and transported from the upper Vivian Creek basin in the San Gorgonio wilderness. The permit box contained no new entries since July 6th. Fine ash in the fire ring suggested recent use within 3 to 5 days. Soil impressions on both tent pads indicated occupancy within the previous week. No visitors were observed on approach. No vehicles were reported at the trailhead. The stake matched a discontinued inventory type with no loss report on file. No personnel assignment accounts for its placement. The San Gorgonio wilderness occupies the eastern slope of the San Bernardino range, climbing from scrub desert into high timber and exposed alpine zones. Summer temperatures in the lower valleys routinely exceed 105 degrees. Above 9,000 feet, conditions shift rapidly. Afternoon thunderstorms develop without warning, and snowfields persist into July. Access in the 1970s was limited to a handful of maintained trails and fire roads, most originating from the Mill Creek and South Fork drainages. Several backcountry campsites required 8 to 10 miles of hiking from the nearest vehicle turnaround. Resupply was scheduled bi-weekly during the summer season, weather permitting. The wilderness was administratively divided into 4 patrol zones, each monitored by rotating personnel during peak visitation months. Zone 3 covered the upper Vivian Creek corridor and the approaches to San Gorgonio Peak. Campsites in this area were inspected every 7 to 10 days for compliance and resource impact. Water sources were scarce above 8,000 feet. Established sites were located near springs or seasonal snowmelt drainage. Visitors were advised to carry minimum 3-day reserves. The region had been used intermittently by survey crews, fire lookouts, and transit teams since the early 1900s. Several abandoned theodolite stations remained in place along ridgelines. Foot traffic increased sharply after the wilderness designation in 1964, though backcountry zones remained lightly visited compared to day-use areas. In winter, the entire upper zone was typically closed due to avalanche risk and limited access. Snowpack accumulated to 12 feet or more in sheltered basins. Spring melt sometimes delayed trail clearance until late May. The area was managed by the San Bernardino National Forest, with field operations coordinated through the Regional Ranger District Office. Personnel rotated between zones on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on staffing and fire activity elsewhere in the forest. Field Inspection Notes, July 18, 1978. Zone 3, Site 12A. Upper Vivian Creek Basin, approximately 9,200 feet elevation. Arrival 14:30 hours. Campsite vacant. No visitors observed during approach. Fire ring intact. No evidence of recent use. Ash cool, scattered by wind. Estimated 2 to 3 weeks minimum since last occupancy. Food storage box inspected. Cable undamaged. Lock mechanism functional. Interior empty. No wildlife intrusion observed. Waste management compliant. No litter in perimeter check. Latrine screen positioned correctly. No maintenance required. Site exhibits normal weathering. Stone placement around fire ring undisturbed. Tent pads level. Drainage adequate. Firewood supply depleted. Standard condition for mid-season. No action required. Signage legible. Permit box secured. 1 completed permit inside. Dated July 6th. Party of 2. Departure noted as July 8th. Trail condition from approach. Clear, no deadfall. Minor erosion near drainage crossing, flagged for trail crew. No irregularities noted during standard inspection. Field Inspection Notes, August 2nd, 1978. Zone 3, Site 12A. Follow-up inspection per rotation schedule. Arrival 11:15 hours. Campsite vacant. Weather conditions clear. Temperature approximately 72 degrees. No precipitation since last visit based on ground surface. Fire ring. Fine ash present. Consistency suggests use within past 3 to 5 days. Depth approximately 1 inch. No remaining coals or charred wood. Food storage box inspected. Cable intact. Lock functional. Interior. Empty food wrapper. Torn foil material. unidentifiable residue on base panel, minimal quantity, removed and packed out. Tent pads, impressions present on both cleared areas. Depth and definition suggest occupancy within previous week. Soil compaction consistent with weighted load. Duration undetermined. Perimeter check. No trash observed beyond storage box contents. Latrine. Screen in position. No maintenance flags. Permit box checked. No new permits since July 6th entry. Box otherwise empty. Esto. Equipment inventory conducted per standard protocol. Northeast tent pad. Tent stake positioned vertically near edge, approximately 6 inches from rock border. Standard steel stake, 10-inch length, moderate corrosion on shaft, removed and retained. Southwest corner of site, small folding camp shovel, entrenching style, positioned upright against stone at fire ring perimeter. Wooden handle, weathered. Metal blade shows oxidation. No identifying marks. Retained for verification. Adjacent to food storage box. Coil of braided nylon cord, yellow and black pattern, approximately 25 feet in length. Ends frayed. Coil loosely arranged on ground surface, partially covered by wind-blown needles. Retained. All 3 items logged and transported to district office for supply record cross-check. Site otherwise consistent with previous inspection. No damage to infrastructure. No environmental violations observed. Trail conditions stable. No erosion progression noted. Inspection concluded 1240 hours. Memorandum, August 9th, 1978. From District Equipment Officer to Zone 3 Field Coordinator. Item verification request. Site 12A, August 2nd collection. Reviewed items submitted from Site 12A, inspection dated August 2nd. Tent stake. Standard issue, Type C steel, consistent with Wilderness Program Inventory 1972 to 1976. However, no record of stake loss or replacement request filed for Site 12A or Zone 3 during that period. Item does not correspond to any open equipment accountability report. Camp shovel. Entrenching tool, military surplus style. This item type was phased out of field issue in 1968. No shovels of this design currently held in district inventory. No historical record of issue to Zone 3 personnel or approved campsite cache. Nylon cordage, braided utility line, yellow-black pattern. This specification was never part of standard wilderness program supply. No requisition or purchase order on file matching description. Material does not correspond to any known district or forest level procurement. Cross-checked all site maintenance logs for 12A from 1975 to present. No installation, repair, or equipment placement recorded that would account for presence of these items. Checked personnel gear logs for Zone 3 rotations, May through August 1978. No loss reports filed. No personal equipment documented matching submitted descriptions. Reviewed permit records for Site 12A, season to date. July 6th permit, party of 2, departure July 8th. Represents only documented use since June 22nd. No earlier permits reference equipment loss or abandonment. Items remain unaccounted for in all accessible records. Recommend follow-up inspection and continued documentation if additional material is located. No further action indicated at this time. Memorandum, August 23, 1978. From Zone 3 Field Coordinator to District Equipment Officer. Site 12. A. Additional findings. Third inspection cycle completed August 21st. Site 12A. Accessed via standard approach from Vivian Creek trailhead. Arrival 1300 hours. Conditions dry, clear visibility. Campsite vacant on arrival. Permit box contains single new entry dated August 18th. Party of 3. Noted departure August 20th. No current occupants observed. Fire ring cold. Ash depth minimal, consistent with single night use. Food storage box empty, no residue. Tent pad impressions faint, recently vacated. Perimeter sweep extended to 50-yard radius per protocol. Additional item, located approximately 30 yards northeast of primary site, partially obscured beneath low manzanita growth. Item description, canvas tarpaulin, olive drab, folded into rough square, approximately 3 feet per side. Fabric heavily weathered, multiple small tears along edges. Grommets intact at corners. Moderate rust. No visible markings or labels. Tarpaulin unfolded for inspection. Dimensions approximately 8 feet by 10 feet. Interior surface stained. Origin of discoloration unclear. No organic matter or debris inside folds. Item retained and transported. Cross-reference requested against inventory records. No other anomalies identified during inspection. Infrastructure intact. Trail conditions unchanged. Memorandum, September 6, 1978. From District Equipment Officer to Zone 3 Field Coordinator. Tarpaulin verification. Site 12. A canvas tarpaulin submitted. August 23rd, reviewed and cataloged. Material consistent with military surplus stock. Style commonly available through federal disposal channels in the 1950s and early 1960s. Fabric weight and grommet spacing match. Specifications for general purpose ground cover. Type 2 classification. However, no record exists of tarpaulin procurement or distribution for wilderness program use in this district. Standard issue, ground covers transitioned to synthetic materials in 1967. Canvas tarps were not included in any post-1970 inventory. Checked historical requisitions for Zone 3 site development, 1964 to 1978. No tarpaulins listed for Site 12. A installation or maintenance activity. Reviewed fire crew equipment manifests for San Bernardino National Forest, 1970 to 1978. No canvas tarps matching submitted description currently assigned to backcountry operations. Condition of fabric suggests prolonged exposure. Deterioration pattern indicates minimum several years of weathering, possibly longer. Staining on interior surface submitted for basic assessment. Results inconclusive. No identifiable organic compounds. No residue consistent with food storage, fuel, or standard camp material. Item origin remains undocumented in accessible records. Recommend storage pending further inquiry. No immediate action required. Field inspection notes, September 19, 1978. Zone 3, Site 12. A. Routine. Inspection per schedule. Arrival 10:45 hours. Campsite vacant. Permit box empty. No documented use since August 18th entry. Fire ring undisturbed. No ash accumulation. Food storage box empty. Interior clean. Tent pads clear. Ground surface shows no recent compression. Extended perimeter check to 75-yard radius. No additional items located. Standard infrastructure assessment. Signage intact. Latrine screen functional. Drainage systems clear. Noted. Faint impressions observed on northeast tent pad. Located in position similar to previous inspection cycles. Depth shallow. Definition poor. Could not determine age with certainty. Weather since last visit included brief precipitation event on September 14th, approximately 0.3 inches recorded at lower elevation stations. Ground surface at site showed minimal residual moisture. Impressions may predate precipitation or may represent post-storm settling. Determination inconclusive. No physical evidence of current or recent occupancy, beyond tent pad irregularities. Inspection concluded 12-20 hours. No items retained. Environmental factors complicate interpretation of backcountry evidence. Soil compaction can persist for weeks, depending on moisture content and ground composition. At higher elevations, repeated freeze-thaw cycles alter surface conditions unpredictably. What appears recent may be residual from earlier activity. Wind redistributes ash and small debris continuously. A fire ring that appears unused may have been active days prior, with all trace material dispersed across the surrounding area. Visual assessment of ash depth is imprecise without controlled sampling. Tent impressions offer limited temporal data. A weighted structure will compress soil differently depending on substrate type, ground saturation, and duration of load. 2 nights of occupancy can produce effects similar to brief, heavy equipment placement. Conversely, light occupancy on dry, rocky soil may leave almost no trace. Permit compliance in remote zones relies on voluntary adherence. A portion of backcountry users do not complete permit forms, either through oversight or intentional avoidance of documented entry. Estimates suggest 10 to 15% of actual use may go unrecorded in lightly monitored areas. Equipment left at campsites does not always indicate abandonment. Cached gear, staging for multi-day routes, or forgotten items retrieved later all produce temporary site presence without formal documentation. Personal property laws complicate official handling of such material. Record-keeping systems across agencies were inconsistent during this period. Military surplus distribution, in particular, involved minimal tracking once items entered civilian or secondary federal channels. A tarpaulin purchased privately or transferred informally would not appear in district supply logs. Weathering rates vary significantly depending on microclimate and placement. An item sheltered beneath vegetation may degrade differently than one exposed on open ground, even within the same general location. Human memory is fallible under repetitive conditions. Field personnel conducting multiple inspections across similar sites may conflate details or apply template observations unintentionally. An item present during one visit but unnoticed may be retroactively logged as a new discovery. Time compression affects recollection. Events separated by weeks can feel simultaneous when documented in sequence. Conversely, brief intervals may seem extended under high cognitive load or environmental stress. Standard inventory controls were designed for centralized storage, not dispersed wilderness deployment. Items issued decades prior, phased out of active stock, or distributed under obsolete procurement codes often vanish from accessible records despite continued physical existence. But certain details resist procedural reconciliation. The yellow and black nylon cordage located on August 2nd matched no wilderness program specification on file. District procurement records contain no reference to this material across any purchasing period. Forest-level archives, when consulted, showed no corresponding requisition. If privately owned, its presence at a vacant site implies either loss or intentional staging. Yet no visitor reports filed during the relevant season mentioned missing cordage. No permit holder documented equipment failure requiring replacement line. The cord was not concealed. It lay loosely coiled near the food storage box, surface debris suggesting several days' exposure minimum. Its position was neither hidden nor secured. The camp shovel, military surplus style, was phased from federal issue in 1968. 10 years had passed by the time of discovery. Surplus equipment circulates widely, and private ownership is common, but the shovel was positioned upright, blade down against the fire ring perimeter. A deliberate arrangement inconsistent with discard or accidental loss. No earlier inspection logs for Site 12A mentioned tools staged at the fire ring. Prior documentation described only standard infrastructure: ring stones, storage box, tent pads, permit post. If the shovel belonged to a recent visitor, its weathered condition suggests prior use elsewhere, then transport to this location. If abandoned by earlier users, its absence from years of routine inspections requires explanation. The canvas tarpaulin bore staining that laboratory review could not identify. Not food residue, not fuel, not organic decay. The discoloration covered interior surface area in an irregular pattern, edges lighter than center, but no source material remained. Tarpaulins degrade predictably under exposure. Mold, UV breakdown, water staining, and particulate accumulation all produce recognizable markers. The submitted sample exhibited weathering consistent with prolonged outdoor presence, but the staining itself matched no reference. Profile. The tarpaulin was folded when found, not wadded, not discarded casually. Folded into an approximate square and placed beneath vegetation 30 yards from the primary site. Taken individually, each item permits rational explanation. Taken together, their concentration at a single remote location, absent from all supply records, present across multiple inspection cycles, begins to suggest coordination. But coordination implies intent, and intent requires presence. No visitor log accounts for the sequence. No personnel assignment matches the timeline. No maintenance activity was scheduled or conducted that would introduce these materials. The items were cataloged and stored at the district office. Site 12A continued on standard inspection rotation. No further discoveries were logged in subsequent reports. The August 9th memorandum concluded with a recommendation for continued documentation. No follow-up inquiry was initiated. No expanded investigation appears in the file. Somewhere in a regional storage facility, a tent stake, a folding shovel, a coil of yellow and black cord, and a canvas tarpaulin remain accessioned under an unexplained site reference. The inspection notes describe what was found. They do not describe who left it, or why, but the archive remains open. If you're drawn to records that end mid-procedure, there's more in the file.